complete different time. We need to press the time button, leave the 19th century. We're now already at the 20th century. The Brits just conquered the country in 1917. Remember December when they entered the old city? The Mandate actually started officially in 1920. And we're now at the beginning of the 20s when finally, sof, Baruch Hashem, all that had to do with the selling and buying lands opened after quite many years that everything was closed because of the war, First World War. Okay, so a new neighborhood was planned right here on a rather big mountain that belonged to the Greek Orthodox, but remember, they had to sell lots of land, and they sold their this property, this mountain, to the Jews, to a little company named Aksharat HaYeshuv. I really have no idea if there was a translation to Aksharat HaYeshuv, but it's a very important company that was part of Keren Kayemet Israel, the JNF, right? And they were in charge of buying lands for the Jewish yeshuv in the land of Israel. So the neighborhood I'm talking about was not called Rahavia, but if you guys take a look over here, it says Gingeria. So that's a very non-Jewish name, right? Gingeria. Why Gingeria? Because this entire area was named Gingeria since the 19th century. And why is that? Because the person who bought the land back then in the 19th century was a Greek Orthodox monk named Gingerius, right? Same, for example, was where Rahavia will be built. And if you look at old maps, you see that the name was Nicoforia. And why is that? Because it was Nicophorus who bought it. You're going to see a lot of Greek names around the area of Jerusalem in the 20th century, and that has a lot to do with what I told you before about the Greek Orthodox and their ownership of this place.
But yeah. I thought most of the land in Rahavia were leased, not bought, no?
They were all bought, not leased. What you're talking about, I'm not sure how you say it in English, but it's a lehachir, which means you sell it. Yes, it's another word, it's not lease. It's selling, but then at the end of it depends on either 49 years or 99 years, the seller has the right to bring someone who can measure how much it is, including all that was built over the land. And if he's got enough money and he wants to buy the land, the person who bought it 49 years or 99 years ago is forced to sell it. All right, so that's the difference between selling and lachir.
But there was recently an issue in this area.
There was. We might talk about when we're inside. All right? Yofi. So, guys, this is the map of Gingeria. In 1922, the guy who planned the neighborhood was named Richard Kaufman. I have a feeling that you've heard of that guy because he was in charge of planning about 100 settlements in Palestine during the British Mandate period. You must have talked about Nahalal, yes, right? Because that was his idea. I'm sure you guys know that he came with this gorgeous idea that he brought from England, which was called the Garden Cities. I hope you talked about that because that was his plans. Nahalal. Why is Nahalal rounded? It's based on this principle of the Green Gardens, which was established in the end of the 19th century in Britain, which wanted the people to go back to natural life. I want to remind you that in 1789 was the famous revolution, the Industrial Revolution, where people started to almost live in industry areas. And the idea that was developed in Britain was to go back as possible to natural life, which means that's why Kaufman planned the halal the way it is for the people to live in the center, and then all the other facilities like the Chadar Ochel, where the dining room and the children's room and everything would be surrounding at the outer ring, and then all the industry will be even around it, and then the outer, all the surroundings will be agriculture. And in that way, you separate between industry, agriculture, and where you live. And where you live, gotta be green, simple, 2 floors top. I'm telling you all this, not because I care about Nahalal right now, it's because these principles were brought to Jerusalem by Richard Kaufman, and that's how he planned the 6 garden neighborhoods in Jerusalem. So Rahavia was the first, and what you see here is part of the idea where I'm going to come closer to you guys to see that one of the principles was that your house will only take a third of the plot, right? See? A third of the plot. All the rest has got to be a garden. It's for you to decide where the garden is going to be. Is it going to be just the front, or is it going to be a little bit of the front and the back? But that's it. Third. Also, the streets are going to be very narrow, right? Very, very narrow streets, so that no buses will be able to drive through the neighborhood, and all the industry, well, not much industry here, but all the shops will be either on the northern road or the southern, but not inside the neighborhood. So this idea of greenlit neighborhood is, as I said, one of 6. If you want the entire list of Jerusalem, so here we have Rahavia, which was the first. Then he built Bet Keren, right? And if you guys know Bet Keren, it's a very garden green neighborhood until today. Talpiot, which was built right afterwards. Makor Chaim, which is a not so familiar neighborhood, and it didn't develop so well, but it's very close to Talpiot. You guys are familiar with the place. 5th was Kiryat Moshe. Sorry, I'm saying it again. So Rahavia, then Bet Keren, thank you, and then Talpiot.
Makor Chaim.
Then Kiryat Moshe, which was built in 1925, 6, something like that. And the last one was the Beit Vagan. The Beit Vagan actually got the name of Ir Ganim, or Shmonat Ganim. Get it? Yofi. So what we're doing here is we're looking, and now I'm going to put it on its top so we can see what we see. This is where we are right now. At the corner of Rahavia, next to a building that on the map, it says that this is where the was supposed to be, right here. And the funny thing is that there is a road right here, which is the road you see here, which in the map, which is of course in English because this map was given to the British Municipality of Jerusalem, it says proposed road. Guys, there is no King George Street back then. It was started in 1924. It was built in 1924 while this map was drawn in 1952. Right? So here's Rahavia. We're around the corner. As you can see, it's a little bit over here. Gymnasia was actually built later on here. This building is actually on the map. It just says public building. No specific plans. Actually, there was a specific plan. I'll say something about it later. And eventually, this whole block is dedicated to the 3 central national institutes of the Jewish community here in Jerusalem, in the country. Keren Kayem Israel, as you can see, the JNF. The Jewish Ages, you can see the sign saying that here. And so I'm not sure how to say Keren Hayesod in English. Anybody, please help me out. Keren Hayesod.
Keren Hayesod.
Probably just call it Keren Hayesod, right? Yes. Well, the idea in general is that they all did mostly the same when the Jewish Agency was in charge of the connection with the Jewish people in the world and how they're connected to the Yeshu here in Israel. Keren Kayemet, the IJNF, was in charge of buying lands and all the stories that you know about Sulu Suk. Remember the name? Sulu Suk was a land owner from Beirut. When the guys would go to him and buy lands from him, who would go? It would be the JNF people. And Keren were in charge of planning the settlements. And that's why in many places, Kibbutzim or Moshavim, which you go around, until today, you'd see the sign at the entrance to the kibbutz. It would say, I don't know, Zar'it was established in the year this and that by Keren Hayesod. All right, so we have the land bought by the JNF and the entire settlement planned and built by Keren Hayesod. So this is basically working together. But you're saying, wait, we don't need that anymore, right? I mean, the state of Israel was established and we have all the facilities we need. There is no need of buying lands anymore because we've just conquered everything. And also, you saw the Shikun, right there is this office who is supposed to build, you know? Well, here's what you always see, that if there is a very strong institute with a lot of connections and it gets to a point where it's not needed anymore, somehow it stays. It just changes the goals. So for example, ask any kid in Israel, what do the Keren Kayem Israel doing? Planting forests, right? That's what they do. It's hilarious. I mean,